This week we're finishing the Sfirah, the week of Netzach, and we're going to be counting Malchut of Netzach, which concludes the entire week. And we were talking most of the week about the Sfirah of Netzach is the idea and the concept of being victorious and being successful in many different things. And now we're concluding the week with Malchut of Netzach. That Malchut, of course, corresponds to a melech, to a king. And a king, a real king I'm talking about, is a leader. And a real king, a real leader, I'm not talking about a fake one, but a real king, a real leader is willing to waste all the treasures, all the secret powers, just to win a war. When it comes to a real war, and there's no other option, the king is willing to take it all the way, even his life. That's a real king. And again, I'm talking about a real king like David HaMelech, Moshe Rabbeinu, not the kings that you find in our generation and other generations that all they care about their wealth or money or power. I'm talking about a real king. A real king, as they say, when the going gets tough, we go all the way. And a true leader is willing to give up even his life. Why? In order to win. So there'll be victory, she'll be success. Now, what is really the war of a king, a real king? Is to win the light over darkness. And the darkness is the darkness of this world, what the Zohar calls it Alma de Shikra, the world of deception. And a real king, his war is to, how am I taking light now and overpowering darkness? And how is good winning evil? In many cases you see that the king or the leader is the evil. But a real king is how is he overpowering good over evil? Or justice overpowering injustice. And we see in our generation how the majority of the leadership and rulers are evil. And we see how much there's not justice in this world. And a real king is fighting for justice and for honesty and for truth and for good and for the good to win over the bad. But nevertheless, in order for me to win, to have complete victory, then I need to use all my resources, whatever I need to. That's a real king and a real leader. That's why when you putting the two sfirot together, Malchut Netzach, it makes most sense. Netzach is the power of winning and victory, and Malchut is the king. So the king has the power to go all the way till he wins. So Malchut and Netzach, they work very well together, because that's the characteristics of a king and the characteristics of the Netzach, of the victory. Now, when Sfirat HaNetzach reaches its purpose, so to say, because all the Sfirot, they have a certain purpose. We're talking about very lofty terms and say all sorts of fancy words. And other people, they find it very, very lofty to say, oh, today is the Hod Netzach. Nobody even knows what it means, but they like saying it in a very, like, I know what I'm talking about. Really, we don't know what we're talking about. But nevertheless, every Sfirah has a characteristic, and every Sfirah has a purpose. Specifically, when the Sfirah of Netzach reaches its purpose, it is revealed as the victory of the Malchut, the victory of the rulership and kingship. And when do we see kings that are successful, like David HaMelech and Moshe Rabbeinu and many others in our history? So Sfirat HaNetzach, when it comes to its ultimate purpose, it's revealing the power of Malchut. Therefore, Malchut and Netzach, they go together very, very well. Now, this is, again, talking here in a very lofty way, but we like to take it to my own personal life. In my own personal life, I also have battles and wars. Constantly, I have battles and wars. And for now, we're going to focus on the wars that are right wars. Sometimes I have wars because somebody took my parking spot. This is not a right battle in my life. That's me being childish or being pushy or whatever. But we all have challenges in our life. We're going to call them now my personal wars. And a lot of them are right. I have to fight. Sometimes you need to know when to back off. This we're going to start learning next week in the week of Hod. But many times I need to know when to stand my ground. I need to win here. I need to fight for justice. And I need to know when to stand up when it comes to justice and being right and fighting for the honor of the Torah or for somebody weak. But nevertheless, we all have wars in our life. And again, we're concentrating on the wars that are right wars. And the main war, the main battle that I have in my life is, of course, me against my desires of my nefesh, my soul, my nefesh habehemit, my animal soul desires all sorts of things, and there's a constant war because I have all sorts of bad tendencies. And in my right mind, I know this is not good, but nevertheless, I have a weakness and I want to do this. And I know in my right mind many things, but still I have a pull to do something. I explained already a couple times that our body is a manifestation of the structure of the sfirot. And the three sfirot, the first sfirot that are called the first three, Gimel Rishonot, just corresponds to our head because they're called mochin. Mochin is the intellect, intellectual part. So we know we have Chokhmah and Bina, the right and the left part of the brain. Chokhmah is the right, Bina is the left, and Da'at is the back. But the head is called the mochin. The body, based on the Zohar, on Tikkunei HaZohar, what Patach Eliyahu explains, then the right hand is the Sphira of Chesed, the left hand is the Sphira of Gvura, the body is Tiferet, right leg is Netzach, left leg is Hod, and the organ of the man, or the womb of the woman, is Malchut, Yesod and Malchut. So we see that even the body corresponds to the structure of the Sphirot. Now, between the mochin, between the head, I like calling it this balloon that we have stuck on the body, there's a little pipe. So we have this big balloon, and then this lumpy body, and in the middle, like this little straw, a little pipe that's connecting between the up and the down, the mochin and the midot. So the mochin, the intellect, is in my mind, in my sechel, in my brain. The midot are in my heart, my attributes, my characteristics. Now let's see if I can connect between here and here. It's very hard to connect because the passage is very narrow. And specifically on this passage, what happens is that we have here Doberman on my neck. It's called Amalek. This is a klipa that is grabbing me on the back of my neck, and it's making the mochin not be able to come down into the midot. So I understand something in my mind very well, but it doesn't affect my midot, my attributes. A perfect example is go now to any smoker in this world and ask him, do you know that it's bad for your health to smoke? No, of course I know. Do you know that you can get cancer? Yeah, I know. So why do you smoke? If you know that, why do you smoke? What are you going to tell me? You're addicted? What are you addicted? You're looking to suffer? You're looking to put yourself in the ground? So this is a perfect example of the mochin, the intellectual part, I understand. But now apply that. Go now to any normal person now, as a God-fearing person, and tell him, do you know that the Torah prohibits you to gossip? Yeah. Do you know the Torah prohibits you to slander a person? Yeah. So why do you talk Lashon Hara all day long? Because you can't help it? Because it's just too juicy to keep it for yourself? So this is a perfect example how the mochin, in the intellectual part, I understand things very clear. But to apply that, that's already a whole different ballgame. So I have my internal wars that my midot, my nefesh, my tendencies is to do something bad, and I have to fight it all the time. I know in my mind it's not good. You know the famous quote of most people who say, listen, I don't want to talk Lashon Hara, but. Why are you saying but? Either don't say Lashon Hara or just say the whole, what do you have to say? I don't want to say Lashon Hara, but, you know what he said? So you are saying Lashon Hara, so why are you saying you don't want to say Lashon Hara? So I have a lot of battles within me. So the battles is not necessarily me against somebody else. That's also a battle that I have. Some people have a lot of battles in their life. And I'm not talking right now because the neighbor is making noise and you want to sue them. This is not a battle. This is just, it's a battle too. I'm talking about real battles, that I have to go against something that is right. But nevertheless, when it comes to my personal battle, then I have to put up a fight. And in order to put up a fight, then I have to sacrifice something. And I need to not only sacrifice, I need to give in or surrender. That's how you win. A king, a real king, is willing to give in and give over and to surrender. Why? Because we need to win here. There's a famous story with the Baal Tanya. At the time when the teachings of Hasidut came out to the world, then there was a whole movement that went against it. Why are you bringing this teaching into the world? But nevertheless, there was two groups as usual. If there's Jews in a place, there's always going to be a fight. But nevertheless, the two groups were fighting. Groups or movements. And the movement of Hasidut, what they used to do is they used to write these little, what's called kuntresim, little Torah, and print it out. And like today, they give out CDs. Today, they give out pamphlets. So they also used to do that 200 years ago. But nevertheless, a lot of the times it would fall on the floor, get thrown. How many times see people in the street, they're giving out flyers, and they throw them to the ground. Now, if it's a flyer that's just promoting your pizza shop, fine. But how many times it's Torah? In our generation too. I mean, you see sometimes the pamphlets are given away and they're thrown to the ground. How many times you see pictures on the floor? But nevertheless, there was a very big anger against it. How are you throwing things of Torah on the floor? It's not appropriate. So one time, when the Baal Tanya was approached and asked, how come you're writing these words of Torah and they're spread out and then we find them on the floor and in inappropriate places? This is not appropriate for the Torah. It's a disgrace for the Torah. So he gave them the parable that it's called, it's a famous parable, it's called Mashal HaMelech, the parable of the king. And the parable goes that there was a king and he had an only child. And the son, the only child, became extremely ill. And they went to all the doctors all around the world. Nobody was able to find a cure. And they brought doctors from every country, paid top dollar. Nobody was able to heal the child. At some point they heard that there's one doctor, maybe he can do something. They brought the person. The doctor looked at the child, examined the child and told the king, I think I have a solution, but you're talking here about maybe a chance of 1 to 1,000,000 that it will work. The king says, I'll do anything to save my child. Anything. What do I need to do? So the doctor told him, I need you to take the biggest diamond on your crown, the one in the front, the big one. I need you to take this, crush it into pieces till it becomes dust, mix it with water, and let your son drink a little bit from it. And the king says, and this will help? He says, well, there's a little chance it might help. But there's a little chance. I'm not saying 100% not. And needless to say that the king was willing to give over the biggest diamond of his crown for his a little chance maybe to save the child. Maybe. This is the approach of the Hasidic teaching and movement, that even if there's a little chance that one soul can get some nourishment from that, we risk everything. We put even the Torah online. Why? Because the life of a soul, the life of a human being, is worth much more than anything else. The Torah calls it pikuach nefesh. When there's a time to save a life, then you move everything aside. Shabbat, mitzvot, Torah, you do anything just to save one person. You're even allowed, according to halacha, you're allowed to sell a Sefer Torah to save somebody from what's called Pidyon Shvuim. If a Jew is captured by enemies, you're allowed to sell the Sefer Torah to take the money and to release the person. So sometimes the Torah says, move everything aside, just so that you save the person. So much more so when it comes to saving the soul. So this is the famous mashal, the famous parable of the Baal Tanya about the king, Mashal HaMelech, that when there's a little chance even, you still give everything up. So even in my own battles, I have to understand, I spoke about it already a couple times, and when we're talking about the Sfirah of Malchut, and I keep saying a king, even I am, and each and every one of us, we're a little king. What the teachings of Kabbalah will say, a king, bezeir anpin, in a mini version of a king. Because if I'm a husband and a father, then I'm a king of my little domain. And I'm always a king somewhere. King means that I'm not ruling and giving orders. I told you many times, a king is a giver. Yosef HaTzadik was a king, he was a giver. Moshe Rabbeinu was a king, he used to give. David HaMelech, all the real kings, they're givers, they're not here to take. So I can be a king in my own little domain, even if it's a king on myself. But nevertheless, when it comes to the battles, I have to understand that I have to do anything I can to win the battle. And how do you win a battle? Is sometimes you have to surrender. And sometimes you have to give up. And sometimes you have to really put on the line something just to win. Sometimes you have to really give in or to sacrifice something. Why? Because it's all for the sake of winning. And again, I'm talking about things that are the right battles, not when I'm battling something minor or something that is irrelevant. To make a differentiation between what I'm talking about. When it comes to my own personal battles, and if I need to battle my bad desires, my bad inclination, then I put everything on the line. And the way of winning is that I also need to know when to surrender and when to give in and when to sacrifice and when to say, no, I can't do this, I can't do it, I don't want to do it, I shouldn't do it. So this is the idea behind the Malchut of Netzach. That Netzach is the power of winning, but the power of Malchut is allowing me that I'm going all the way. And if I have to have a sacrifice here, then there's going to be a sacrifice. If there has to be casualties, there's going to have to be casualties. How many times you're looking at wars? Look at now the land of Israel, the country of Israel, how many wars they went to. And every time there's a war they're about to go to, don't you think the generals, the chief of staff, all the ministers, don't you think they know there's going to be casualties here? Every time you go into war, there's going to be casualties. But the chief of staff is not looking at the person himself. He's looking, okay, it's a whole army. We're going into a battle. There's always losers in battles. Even the winners are losers. Because even the winners, they have casualties. So, nevertheless, when you go into approaching into a war, this comes to you're taking the power of the king, and the king says, I have the power of winning. Why? Because the king is willing to give anything it takes in order to win. So what you need to know, if you want to apply that practically, is first of all, you have to recognize your battles in your life. And everybody has battles. And again, just to make it clear, and I know I'm repeating myself, a battle is not right now a neighbor annoying me. This is not my battle. My battle is, first of all, my own personal battles, with my bad thoughts, with my bad feelings, with my junk that's going on in my mind, what I want to say, what I want to do, what I want to eat. I constantly have these battles, and don't think there's something wrong with you. Everybody has battles. Just some people share it with you, and some people don't. But you're not the only one that all day long there's a jungle in the mind, and everybody has that. Just some people it's more under control, some people are willing to share it, some people not. But don't think you're different. But Hashem wants you to fight. And then, of course, there are the battles around me. If I am married and chas v'shalom, a couple, they don't have a good marriage, but they're meant to be with each other, that's an important battle. You don't give up. You don't right away go to the Beit Din and get a divorce. It's not how things work. You think that most people don't have good marriages. I told you that many times. To find somebody with a good marriage, that's 1 out of a million. And not because the couple is bad, because marriage is about work. And society and what we see around is we think that marriage is about holding hands and kissing each other and walking into sunsets. It doesn't work. It works in Hollywood maybe. No, I'm sorry to tell you, that's not marriage. But that's only in Hollywood it works when couples, I love you and I love you. And it works in the time when you're dating. After that, marriage is work. So it just means that's it. It doesn't work out the marriage. Right away I get a divorce. No, this is a serious battle. How many times? It's a relationship with your parents, with your kids, with your siblings, whatever it is. These are true battles. So you have the battles between me and other people that you have to fight. And you know what? We're going to now very soon learn about the beginning of the Sphira of Hod. The whole week of Hod now is how I make room for another person. Now we took powers of Nitzachon, of being victorious and successful. Now we're switching from Netzach to Hod. We're switching we're turning the tables right now. So we have a lot of battles in our life, but Hashem also gives me the tools to fight them. We talked about it 2 days ago, that if Hashem gives you a challenge, He gives you also the tools, how to deal with it. So if you remember, that was already not on the camera when we took some questions. Then one of the girls was asking about the challenges. So I said, the Hashem is kind of like IKEA. So He gives you a dresser, and He gives you the instructions how to do it. Now He says, now you build it. So same thing here. He doesn't give you the bookshelf ready. He says, here is the potential for a table or for a bookshelf. Here is the bag with all the screws and the instructions. Now you go and build it. So, yeah, exactly. So Hashem constantly throws challenges into our life. But if He throws already a challenge, He already gives me the instructions. Here, now this is how you build it. Now if you go from stage 2 to stage 4, you're not going to be able to do it. It's not going to work out. You have to go from stage 1 to stage 2 to 3 and 4. and spread out all the bags, put it up, all the screws. Watch what you're doing. That's what Hashem does. So we constantly have challenges in our life. These are our battles. And you need to know how to choose your battles, how to get over your battles. And Hashem gives you all the tools. If Hashem gave you a hard spouse to deal with, He also gave you all the tools to deal with it. And if the spouse is pushing all sorts of buttons, it's because that's what you need to work on. Nothing wrong with the spouse. And I'm saying just a spouse. Can be a parent, can be a child. All the people around us in our life, they're not going against us. So I need to understand that in Sfirat HaOmer, I have the opportunity to take components of my soul and to bring them to their potential, bring them to their purpose, and then start polishing it. So the classes that we're doing now, don't just get hooked on it because today is going to be Malchut of Netzach. You can take this class and learn it in 3 months and say, okay, let me take the idea of Malchut of Netzach and how do I apply the victory with the power of I'm not giving in order to win this battle. And how many times you see in a marriage or in many other things that the person didn't give up. It was a hard battle for 10 years, but then you get results, reap results. If you give up right away, then how victorious are you going to be in anything? You can't give up. I mean, of course, you need to know what are the real battles. So when it comes to Malchut of Netzach, practically saying when I want to apply it into my life, I have to see every battle in my life and to make a calculation how much I'm willing to sacrifice for this battle. How much am I willing to give for this battle to work? And the battle could be between me and another person, and the battle could be between me and one of my desires, or one of my inclinations, or one of my habits, or one of my addictions. I mean, we're going to now go into the whole week of Hod, but Hod has 2 aspects of it. The thanking, Hodaya, thanking, and also Hod of the admitting. So in any type of access of Tikkun Midot, it has to be like, okay, I have to realize what am I standing against. But specifically when I want to be victorious, and Hashem gives me a lot of challenges in my life. And He says, if I already gave you the challenges, like IKEA. IKEA doesn't only give you the bag of the screws. They also give you the screwdriver itself. You know what I'm talking about? IKEA is very smart. They not only give you the pieces and the instructions, they give you the little wrenches and everything. You don't have to go and buy anything. So Hashem does the same thing. He already throws a challenge into your life, a battle. He gives you all the abilities, all the opportunities, all the tools to deal with it. Now you have to come to a thought with yourself, okay, how much am I willing to do to make this work? And how much am I willing to give in? How much am I willing to surrender? How much am I willing to sacrifice? In any type of relationship or in my own personal battles. So you want to take the midah of Malchut of Netzach and to apply that to any type of battle that you have. Why? So you can become victorious. You will be successful. And the success is not necessarily the score that you get. The success is how much you are willing to give. You're not counting success by marking check marks. Sometimes you go into a battle and you might not win this battle, and the battle might take your entire life. But the score here is how you play the game. If you're honest, if you tried, if you were humble, if you didn't do anything that, like I told you in the beginning of the week, you're not breaking the rules. But ultimately, every challenge that Hashem gave you, He already gave you all the options how to be able to deal with it, the tools, the instructions, the power. That's what we're talking the entire week. But to finalize the week is that I can always be victorious only when I'm willing to give in. I give everything I can. You don't give up. Not on your marriage, not on your business, not on your kids, and not on my own spiritual growth. Some people say, you know what, I tried this whole Torah thing for 3 months. Not for me. It's not for me. What do you mean it's not for you? You know how many times I see people coming in, out, I tried it already. What do you think? This is a fish that you try it out, and if you like it, you take it or not. This is Torah and mitzvot. It's not about liking or not. And some people, it's easy for them to get acquainted to the Torah, and some people it takes them 15 years till they become part with the Torah, and it's still in a struggle. Most people, for them to become and to sustain, to be observant, that can take sometimes 20 years till it becomes part of you. So to conclude the week of Netzach, is that to know that the Kadosh Baruch Hu, everything that He gave me, every challenge and every battle, He also gives me all the tools and all the powers how to win this battle. And the winning is not me going, I won, is that I'm not giving up, and that I'm playing fair according to the game's rules. And the Kadosh Baruch Hu is the one who's decide the measure of success or not, but nevertheless, I have the ability to apply that. And needless to say, when we want to conclude the entire week of Netzach, is to understand that in only to win, who's the real true winner that takes the battle to the end? That's the king, that's the Malchut of Netzach, is that I have the power in me, I just have to be willing to do that. And most people, when it comes to the point when they need to sacrifice something, that's how far I'm going to go. From here I'm not going anymore. But that's sometimes the line that you need to cross in order to be victorious and to be successful.